Hi, are you guys looking for a new shrimp recipe to try? Well, I have one for you right here. During this time, it's actually Lent in the Catholic Church, and a lot of people have to eat seafood because they cannot eat meat on Fridays. I have a recipe right here you can try if you just love shrimp or you're celebrating Lent and you need something that you can make on Fridays that's a real tasty treat to eat. Today, I'm going to show you how to make baked coconut shrimp. My name is Margaret Boache, and I hope you'll enjoy this recipe. Today I'm going to go over the materials that you'll need for the coconut shrimp, the ingredients that you'll need, the steps that you'll need to take, and what best goes with this shrimp when you're ready to eat it. First, the materials that you'll need a couple things. Right here I have a sheet tray that is lined with parchment paper, as well as another sheet tray that's lined with paper towels. So those are the two of the materials you need. And then I have 3 bowls that you'll need. And you'll also need a fork as well for mixing the certain ingredients. Now, next I'm going to talk to you about the ingredients you'll need. And this is a really good recipe if you're just looking, for something a little healthier as well, because this is baked and not fried. So the ingredients that you'll need are 1 pound of peeled and deveined shrimp with the tail on, because you do need the tail. That helps with the coconut shrimp. And this is 16-20 count, which means that it's a larger size of shrimp. 16-20 count means there's between 16 and 20 shrimp per pound. So you'll get a lot of big juicy shrimp out of this recipe if you go with the bigger shrimp. You can use smaller shrimp as well if that's the only thing you can have, but you will need more shrimp, as well as it not being as delicious with the bigger shrimp. The next ingredient that you'll need is half a cup of flour, which I have up here in this bowl. You'll need paprika, as well as granulated garlic. You will need sweetened flake coconut, salt, and also just a little bit of pepper to season your shrimps with. And also panko, which I do not have to show you. It is in this bowl mixed with the coconut currently. The panko that I have is actually toasted, and I found it at a specialty store up in Pennsylvania. I cannot remember the name, but if you do not have toasted panko breadcrumbs, you certainly can get regular panko breadcrumbs from the grocery store. Panko breadcrumbs are different than the regular ones because they're actually a little bigger and crispier and more airy than the regular breadcrumbs. So if you don't have toasted breadcrumbs, or you can't find them at your local grocery store, what I suggest doing is getting a tablespoon of olive oil and mixing that with a cup of just regular plain panko breadcrumbs, and browning that in a pan for on medium-high heat for about 6 minutes, and you'll get the certain toastiness that you need with the toasted breadcrumbs that I have here. I have 2 beaten eggs in this bowl here. So I've done a little bit of the prep work here already, as you can see. Some of the shrimp are already done because this takes a little bit of time to do. This is the longest part. Okay. So with the shrimp, what you'll want to do is, if you get them fresh or if you de-thawed them, you want to wash them and pat them dry first, because any extra moisture in the shrimp is going to make them mushy once they're cooked. So what I did when I lined this with paper towel is patted them off, and then I seasoned them with a little bit of salt and pepper. And that's completely your preference. You don't have to salt and pepper them. You can put as little or as much as you want. That is your preference when making this dish. Now, up in here, like I said, I have flour. It was half a cup of flour in this bowl. And the paprika and granulated garlic I sprinkled in there. You need about a teaspoon of each. You can pretty much eyeball that. And you can put in, like I said, the same thing with the salt and pepper, as much or as little as you want. The paprika is for a little bit of extra color, and the garlic is for a little bit of extra flavor. And these can be omitted if you are not a fan of either of these seasonings. And then in here I had 1 cup of panko, the toasted panko. Like I said, if you can't find toasted, then you can certainly toast it yourself, or you can even use it by itself. It doesn't necessarily need to be toasted. And then I had a cup of the sweetened coconut in this bowl. So what you'll need to do with the shrimp, I recommend using one dry and one wet hand when doing this, or else a layer will form on your hands. What you'll want to do is take each shrimp and toss it in the flour with a dry hand. I picked up the shrimp with my right. I'm tossing it in the flour with my left. That way I have a dry hand, and shake off the excess. And then into the egg with my wet hand. And you'll want to flip it around, make sure it's completely covered, and make sure you shake off the excess on that as well. A lot of times when people don't shake off the excess egg, the breading will come off when they are cooking it. And then with my dry left hand again, I'm going to take the mixture of panko and coconut. And you can certainly use unsweetened coconut if you like. The sweeter one just gives it a little extra flavor, and it's most of the time the one that tastes a little better. The unsweetened doesn't really have a flavor. It tastes like coconut, and the sweetened just brings out more of the coconutty flavor. And then you want to shake off the excess on that as well, and then place it on the sheet tray. If you do not have parchment paper, you can certainly just put it directly on the sheet tray. Just make sure you spray it with Pam, or a little bit of olive oil or butter, anything that you have that would be a non-stick agent. So while we're doing this, my oven's already preheated. It's been preheated to 400 degrees. Now my oven heats up a little bit faster than most, so what you'll want to do is actually at the beginning, before you start doing this, is preheat your oven. I usually wait until about halfway. I have turned it on currently, but usually when I make this recipe, my oven heats up in about 2 minutes, and it takes me a little bit longer just to bread the shrimp and everything. So I'm just keep going through. I have a couple more shrimp here. It takes a little bit of time once you're doing it. That's why I did some earlier. And this is just a great recipe. A lot of times this is fried, and frying adds extra fat, and baking tastes just as good and is healthier for you. I make this recipe all the time. It is very, very, very delicious, and it doesn't take that long to make total, but you want to make sure that you give yourself enough time to. The breading process is really what takes the longest here. Make sure you have enough room on your sheet tray. I have a fairly large one here. If you don't have one this big, I would recommend using 2 different sheet trays, because you don't want to crowd the shrimp. That way it will allow it to be a little bit more crispy when it's in the oven. When you're doing that, because that helps with the crispiness that kind of mimics the frying that you do when you have, when you would fry the shrimp. And you can fry the shrimp if you like. It's a lot, it's a little bit more work frying it standing over the fryer, but if you feel free to fry this if you want. Today I will be baking it. I have not tried frying it, but I'm sure it would taste great in the fryer as well. And a lot of these ingredients, like I said, you can get at your local grocery store. Eggs, these are all things that you see. The shrimp that I have here is farm raised, so it's not as good as just the regular shrimp that you could get fresh from your grocery store at the counter. I would recommend getting that definitely before getting just this shrimp that is farm raised, but it was a little bit cheaper, and the wild caught shrimp is a little bit more expensive. So last shrimp here, got some breading left. All right, Alright, and there we go. All the shrimp is breaded now, and now we are going to put them in the oven at 400, cook them for 10 minutes, flip them in 10, and then when we come back, we will see how it looks.